welcome back, everyone, to Hinges and Horizons. I'm Jason Steffenhagen, the Associate Minister at The Well, and it's a pleasure to be back with you for a new season as we get to hear people's stories. And so today, we are going to be connecting with Steve Anderson, who's been a part of The Well for quite some time. And so, Steve, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you've been connected to The Well.
Well, my name is Steve Anderson. I live in Rosemount, and we actually came to The Well many years ago. We moved to Rosemount about 35 years ago. Prior to that, we had been attending a church in Burnsville, Prince of Peace Church, and had been there for quite some time as well. We wanted a church that was a little bit closer to home, and that we knew some people that would also for our children, so that they would know other kids and the kids in their neighborhood, that kind of thing. So we were looking around. We happened to walk into the Methodist church. My wife is a Methodist, and happened to walk into the church, and at the time, Charlie Dundas was the pastor here.
Yep.
He was, one of his first postings as a Methodist minister was in my wife's hometown of Stewartville, and Charlie was very good friends with my wife's parents. So she went,
wow,
it's Charlie Dundas. We have to join this church.
Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I love that.
Yeah. So it was kind of, and then we knew all kinds of people from school and just the city around us and things like that. So it was a real natural fit for us to come there. So now it's been a long time. We've been members. We've been very, what I say, reasonably active.
Oh, yeah.
In the church. My wife is involved with the ladies groups and the prayer ministry right now. I have been, for a number of years, was involved with just the audio systems in what I would call the old sanctuary prior to, and in fact, prior to the addition of the Family Life Center.
Right.
And the office cube, so to speak. Then I decided that I really had a calling to join the choir. I am a singer, and I was for many, many years prior. With Tammy Lukehart being the conductor of the choir at the time. So I joined the choir and have been singing there for quite some time.
Yeah.
Recent events caused me to have to leave that. So now I've been just kind of helping out when I can and doing my thing. So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah. You and Chris are just such a kind of pillars of this church. And it's been so wonderful to get to know the two of you and to see you around and involved, as you said. And so yeah, your presence at the Well, it just kind of helps it make it feel like home. And so thanks for the way that you guys just make this place better. And so it's really wonderful.
Right.
So in this podcast, we explore kind of those hinge moments in people's life, a moment when kind of life took a turn, and so Steve, what was a hinge moment in your life?
I have had a couple of small hinge moments, but there is one that was profound. Just a year ago, well, let me give a background first. I'm an alcoholic and have been for quite some time. You are aware of that, and so are a number of other people at the church. And it has been something that I have been working with and on for years.
Yeah.
A year ago, I had an experience that really changed how I am. I had a car accident. Mm-hmm. I was impaired at the time. Luckily, no one was injured. neither the other people or myself. But it was a pretty major car accident. I destroyed my car. I'm assuming I had destroyed the car of the person that I hit as well. Quite sure that God was looking over my shoulder in that no one was hurt, especially that.
Yeah.
Um, I and the other thing was um, I was not arrested, and so other than losing my car, um, my consequences at that time were, I thought, not so severe.
Sure.
Um, but as time went on, after that happened, that accident, I realized that, again, I had already been through treatment once before at Hazelton facility in Center City. I was there in their inpatient program for a month a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, and you get some foundations, but it just didn't work. And again, so then we come back to this having that accident, and basically. I lost my vehicle.
Hmm.
I realized at that time that I had to quit working. First off, I couldn't get to work. Secondly, my alcoholic problem, was becoming a part of my work day, and that was a huge issue that I was just realizing.
Sure.
When that happened, I quit my job. I'm 65 years old now, so the timing was maybe appropriate as well. I felt like I let some people down, but on the other hand, um, I it was not possible for me to continue,
Sure. Yeah.
and so that's really affected a big part of my life now. I've had to take a real turn. It affects how I treat other people. Um, it affects what I can and can't do in terms of my attitude, in terms of where I can go. We're a one-car family now. That makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Um, I've been really it turned my life. I've been thinking and doing more with Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yep.
I'm going to several small group meetings every week, in addition to my church small group, which is not an alcoholics meeting, but we have our own small group that has been meeting ever since I went and participated in the what was then the Cursillo. Now it's the Unidos en Cristo
Yep.
event weekend, and I've been a part of that as well. But it was now I am bringing my belief and also faith to my AA meetings, and am really trying to live the life that needs to be clean and sober, and trying to do the example, make the apologies, restitutions, and all of that kind of thing. There are all kinds of things have to happen in your mind as well as in the world around you.
Yeah.
And so it's when you said hinge, it's not a pivot. And thank you, because I hate that word now.
Yeah. That word's been worn out in this season. Yeah.
Yes. But making a hinge, and the door, one door closes, one door opens, and that's kind of what has happened to me. So I've been there's a book. In fact, I brought it down to my office with me. 12 Steps and Traditions, and it is discusses the steps of recovery for alcoholics
Yeah.
and really how you should be living your life. It's also a very spiritual program.
Yeah.
And that is something that I was not aware of, but it has really changed my church as well. Um, there's a whole spirituality that happens. Not that I wasn't before, but I never thought of myself as a spiritual person.
Mm,
Um, some people have said that I am, but I never felt like that to
sure.
me. But now I'm basically trying to live my life as if everything I say and do to, especially a stranger, may or may not lead them on a better path.
Mm,
I want, if I run into, let's say, somebody at the grocery store, the cashier, whatever it might be, and if I'm um, not a kind person, what if they're an alcoholic?
mm,
What if that causes them further problems? Well, then that's on me too,
mm,
although I may not know it. So I guess what I'm doing is I'm living my life as if everything I do, every person I touch now, um, it could be in recovery, or I could help along
mm.
that step. Kind of. So
Wow.
that's kind of where
Yeah. Well,
where I am.
Steve, I really appreciate your vulnerability and sharing about this. And I think a couple things that really have resonated. I love that you shared that the 12-step process and the program is not just an interior work, but it's an exterior work. That it's doing a lot to figure out who you are and
Yeah.
being able to understand your identity, and also to reclaim your identity, but also that who you are out in the world, in relationship, in connection to people, really matters. And that, like you said, restitution, being able to make amends with people, be honest, apologetic at, when needed. And then the question is, as you're saying, is, well, what door are you walking through now, and who are you going to be, and how are you going to show up in the world? And it's so encouraging just to hear the way you're framing the importance of relationship, and even simple relationships, like the person, like you said, ringing up your groceries, or you stop at the post office and get a stamp, or there's all these little moments in life, and those are little moments that may seem insignificant, but you're right, they can shape a trajectory. And so how are we showing up in the world really really matters, especially when we think of ourselves as part of a community, that we're not just Steve or Jason that happens to live in this location, but we're a part of a collective of people that are trying to make it in the world here in Rosemont, or for me up in New Brighton. And it matters. It matters how we show up in that community. And so you've taken what was a tragic and hard experience, a hinge moment for sure, but you've opened up a door that has allowed you to show up in the world differently. And I think that's really beautiful. And I think a lot of people can be really encouraged by it. And as you said, it's such a spiritual thing. It's not just a, cognitive thing. It's not just a relational thing, but it's a spiritual thing, of how you show up in the world. So Steve, tell us a little bit about what's on your horizon. What's coming up for you?
Well, I have entered retirement, which is a whole new realm for me. Um, and I've got three grandbabies
Yeah.
that are all, well, one in kindergarten, the other two younger.
Okay.
That's a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And having them nearby, so there's things that we can do that I never had the greatest. I won't say it was a bad grandparent experience, but it just wasn't the real, due to primarily distance.
Yeah.
You saw your grandparents on 2 or 3 holidays a year, whereas now I can see my grandkids every day of the week if I want to. Although my sister or my daughter might not like that. But there's so much opportunity now for me, and it's all in. I'm changing the way that I'm viewing the world around me and what I'm doing in the world around me too.
Yeah.
I'm spending a little more time. I'm doing things active at church again. That and for me, even though I'm not singing in the choir, I really enjoy being able to meet and greet people again,
Yeah.
and do more of that kind of thing and welcoming people back to church. COVID has been a huge struggle. I, for a long time, was doing um, my treatment, so to speak, via Zoom.
Right. Right.
And you're the first Zoom meeting I've been on in 2 years. And it was semi-intentional on my part because it just, um, but now this is something where you're able to reach further than just the building office room that you're in, or the building that you're in, or the house that I'm in as well.
Right.
And I've noticed that with my wife's prayer ministry as well, that we're getting requests from people that are not part of our local church.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that especially our ministry, due to the COVID, has changed, and it's reaching and touching farther beyond even we could dream.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, then of course, that when you start filtering that into your head again, then all right, how are you thinking? What are you doing? What are you saying? Kind of thing. So,
yeah.
And one thing you mentioned also is thinking about what you're thinking. If something's going on in my brain, what is it? Why is it?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I have learned and is hard work is turning off the chatter going on in your mind so you can listen either to someone, or is God talking to you?
Right.
That's prayer and meditation, but until you shut down what's going on in your own head a little bit, make some room, make some quietness.
Yeah.
You can't hear.
Yeah. And that takes practice. And I love that you're kind of ending with that for us, because that ability to really listen either to other people or listening to God and the voice of God, listening to what the Spirit is maybe moving you towards, or who the Spirit is prompting you to pray for. That's a practice. It's not something that just comes naturally all the time. Some people may have a little bit more of a bent towards that. It just comes more naturally to them, but all of us need to work at that. And it really, in a society where it's so noisy all the time, from advertising to what we put on our ears to, driving in our car, there's so much noise that to really be silent and to learn to listen can be something that we have to develop. And so I really appreciate how you're helping us see that. And hopefully our church can continue to model that for others. We had that really beautiful moment even this past Sunday where Cheryl just played the organ for a few minutes before we did the call to worship. And it just kind of, I felt like it just centered a lot of the space for a lot of us. It was just beautiful just to be present in that moment and to not have to rush through the service. And so finding moments like that can be really beautiful, whether we do it alone or whether we do it in a community. So Steve, thanks again for joining me on Hinges and Horizons. We appreciate your candor and your encouragement, and we really appreciate the life that you bring to our church. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's anything I can do.